The hidden cell beneath the stars, stars outside the window, shimmered like cold diamonds. Deep in the lower levels of the alien mining ship, Sarantha, a human named Darren, worked quietly. He was just an engineer, young, curious, and always fixing things others ignored. He had been on the ship for 4 months now, surrounded by tall, silent alien workers who never smiled. They spoke their own language, and when they did speak to him, it was short and cold. Darren didn't mind. He liked working alone. But something strange had been happening. Every night, when most of the crew slept, Darren heard sounds, dull thuds, like heavy breathing or soft banging. The noises came from sublevel 13, the deck no one talked about. Even the aliens avoided it. When Darren once asked about it, a worker simply said, "Not your place. Stay away." But curiosity can be louder than warnings. One night, after a long shift repairing coolant pipes, Darren followed the noise. The metal halls were cold and silent, and his footsteps echoed as he walked deeper into the lower decks. No lights flickered here. The air smelled of rust and something older, something wrong. He reached a locked gate with strange alien symbols. A warning sign blinked red. Darren hesitated, but then the noise came again, thump, thump, thump. Not like footsteps, more like a heartbeat that didn't belong to anything small. He used his access panel to override the lock. The gate slid open with a long hiss, revealing a huge dark room. At first, he saw nothing. Then his eyes adjusted. In the middle of the room was a creature huge, more than 3 meters tall, chained with thick cables wrapped around its arms and legs. Its body was a strange mix of fur, metal, and glowing scars. Its eyes were closed, but it breathed slow and heavy. Darren froze. He had never seen anything like it. The creature didn't move. It looked sad, not angry, not wild, just tired. He took one small step closer. The creature's eyes opened to glowing golden circles that locked onto his face. It didn't growl. It didn't scream. It just looked at him. Darren wanted to run. His heart raced. But something in the creature's eyes held him there. He stepped closer again. The floor creaked under him. The creature didn't flinch. Its arms were bruised and bleeding where the chains bit into its skin. The room smelled of oil, metal, and pain. "What are you?" Darren whispered, knowing it wouldn't understand. But then, unexpected. The creature raised its head slightly. Slow, careful, not to scare him. Then, it tilted its head, almost like it was studying him back. Darren saw a small tray of old food in the corner, untouched, moldy. Whoever put it there hadn't returned in weeks. His chest tightened. "No one's feeding you?" he asked softly. The creature blinked slowly, like it understood. That night, Darren returned to his room. He couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw those golden eyes again. Not wild, not evil, just alone. The next day, after his shift, he returned to the sublevel, this time carrying a small box of food he had packed himself. He unlocked the gate again, carefully walking in. The creature was awake this time, watching Darren. Opened the box, took a small bite to show it was safe, then slid it across the floor. The beast didn't move at first, but then, it stretched out a large hand clawed, and Medellin took the box gently. It ate, slowly, never breaking eye contact. For the next few nights, this continued. A strange friendship began without words. Darren started noticing the small things. The creature never pulled against the chains. It never showed violence. It would simply wait for him, quietly. Sometimes it would hum low, deep vibrations that echoed in the metal room. He wondered, why was this being locked away like this? One night, after bringing fresh fruit and bread, Darren sat down near the gate. "They told me you're dangerous," he said, voice soft. "But you don't look dangerous. You look like someone who was hurt." The creature watched him, silent. Then, it did something that made Darren's breath catch. It reached forward slowly, gently, and touched his hand through the bars. Its skin was rough, but warm. The touch was light, like a whisper. Not a threat, not a trap. Duran didn't pull away. The two sat there, hand to hand, in silence beneath the stars. But above them, on the main deck, a red alarm light flickered quietly on a console no one checked. A small warning blinked in alien text: containment, link weakening, unit awakening. A bond between chains. Duran returned the next night, just as before. But this time, something had changed. The creature, still chained and bruised, was already waiting. It sat upright now, its glowing eyes watching the entrance, like it knew he would come. Duran stepped in carefully, carrying a larger meal, 2 water packs, some bread, dried protein strips, and a piece of fruit from his rations. He set it down near the edge of the chains. The creature didn't reach out at first. Instead, it tilted its head and made a deep, rumbling sound, almost like a growl, but softer, more like a question. Darren froze. "You remember me?" he whispered. The creature slowly extended its hand, this time offering something, a broken metal tag, rusted and scorched, with alien script carved into it. It gently pushed it toward him. Duran picked it up, brushing the grime away. He didn't understand the symbols, but one thing was clear: this wasn't a beast. This was someone, something that once had a name. "Who did this to you?" he asked, voice heavy with guilt. No answer, only silence. But in that silence, there was pain. Loud and raw. Upstairs, above sublevel 13, alien officers walked through corridors with tight jaws. One of them, a captain named Jarak, stopped at a panel, flashing yellow. "Containment unit's energy grid is draining again," he said, frowning. "Is the creature breaking free?" asked his second in command. Jarak shook his head. "No, it's not breaking out. It's being helped." They stared at the screen, showing recent access logs. A human name flashed. "Darren Cole. Bring him to me," the captain growled. Back in the cell. Darren began noticing small changes in the creature. Its wounds were healing faster. Its back stood straighter. And most of all, it seemed to be listening, understanding. But that night, when Darren got back to his room, 2 alien guards stood waiting. They took him to the command chamber, where Captain Jarak sat behind a long metal desk. "You have entered forbidden levels," Jarak said. "What were you doing?" "I was checking for system leaks," Darren lied. The captain's eyes narrowed. "You fed it. You spoke to it. You touched it." Darren hesitated, then spoke. "That thing, it's not dangerous. It hasn't hurt anyone. Not yet," Jarak said coldly. "But it's not a pet. It's a containment unit. Do you know what that means?" "What is it then?" Darren asked. "What's really down there?" Jarak stood, walking to a holoscreen. He tapped. A control. A blurry image appeared long ago, from an ancient war. The same creature, younger, unchained, tearing through fleets, shattering starships with waves of energy from its body. It was a living weapon, one created to end wars, until it turned on its creators, the captain said. It destroyed planets. Billions died. It was locked away to protect the galaxy, and now you're unchaining it. Duran was silent. His heart beat faster. But still, he couldn't forget the look in the creature's eyes. That wasn't a monster. Not anymore. "I saw its pain," he finally said. "I think it's changed." Sharak turned slowly. "And if you're wrong, what then, human?" 2 nights later, Duran returned anyway. He waited until the late hours, snuck past patrols, and found his way to sublevel 13 again. The creature was asleep, if that's what it could be called. Its chest rose and fell in a slow, deep rhythm. Duran stepped closer than before. The chains buzzed softly, live with strange energy, like electricity mixed with alien tech. He reached out and placed his hand gently on one of the cuffs. The creature stirred, but didn't wake. Burn marks covered the metal where it met flesh. The chain was old, cruel, made to hurt. "This isn't right," Darren whispered. "No one deserves this." He examined the lock system, a twisted alien interface. He couldn't break it easily, but he remembered an emergency cutter in one of the storage rooms nearby. He left, returned with the cutter, and stood beside the beast once more. His hand trembled. Was he about to do something good, or something that would doom them all? Before he could move, the creature opened its eyes. It looked at him, then at the cutter. Daron expected anger, fear, or resistance. Instead, the creature nodded just once, and Daron made a decision. He activated the cutter. A beam of light flashed, one chain dropped off the creature's leg with a loud clang. Nothing happened. No rage, no attack, just silence. And then, the creature lowered its head. A single tear, strangely silver, fell from its eye. Meanwhile, elsewhere on the ship, systems flickered, lights blinked, strange frequencies hummed through the core. Machines began acting oddly. The ship's AI paused its routine checks. In the silence of space, something ancient was beginning to awaken, something bound not by metal, but by memory. The moment of Mercythe's chain hit the floor with a heavy, echoing clang. Darren stepped back, breath caught in his throat. One leg, just one. The massive beast before him didn't move, not even an inch. Its eyes glowed dimly, golden with flickers of blue lightning behind them. It didn't roar. It didn't strike. Instead, it lowered its head again and placed both hands flat on the cold metal floor, like a silent bow. For a moment, it almost looked humble. "You understand me?" Darren whispered. That creature didn't speak, not with words. But when it looked at him, something passed between them, an emotion. Trust, sorrow, patience, maybe even hope. Darren turned off the cutter and stepped forward. He hesitated, then knelt and touched the heavy chain wrapped around one of its arms. The metal was burning hot. Old pain lived in it, the kind that lingered in silence. "Who did this to you?" he asked softly. But instead of answering, the creature raised its hands, lowly, and touched 2 fingers to Darren's forehead. The world disappeared in the vision. He saw fire, red skies, broken moons. He saw the beast enchained and flying, blasting energy across battlefields. Cities turned to glass. Oceans boiled. But then the vision changed. He saw a council of frightened alien leaders, creating the chains. He saw betrayal from its own kind. Needles forced into its skull. Voices, screaming commands it could no longer resist. And then centuries in a cage. Alone, abandoned, punished for a war it never chose. Darren gasped and fell backward as the vision ended. His heart raced. His hands trembled. "You weren't the monster," he said. "They made you into one." The creature watched him. For the first time, Darren noticed something faint on its chest, scratches. A word carved into the armor. Not in alien text, but in English. Double quotes. Protector. Double quotes. On the upper decks. Commander Jarak paced in front of a massive screen. Alarms were quietly flashing. Containment level 3, breached. A voice reported. "Lock down the ship," Jarak barked. "We kill it before it fully awakens." "But sir," another alien said nervously, "what if the human is still down there?" Jarak didn't blink. "Then the human dies with it." Back in sublevel 13, Darren worked quickly now. Chain by chain, he used the cutter. Not all at once, just enough to free its movement. The creature never flinched, never made a sound, only watched him. With each lock removed, the room grew colder. Lights flickered, the walls groaned. Darren checked his wrist panel. Strange gravity readings were shifting slightly, like the ship itself was responding to something, not physically, energetically. He stood, sweating. "Are you doing this?" he asked the beast. It nodded once. You're connected to the ship? Again, a nod. But why now, after so long? The beast finally opened its mouth, and in a voice that sounded like stone cracking beneath thunder, it whispered one word, because, ... You believed me. Suddenly, explosions shook the lower decks, red lights blared, defense drones swarmed toward sublevel 13. Darren's wrist panel beeped. Frantically. Manual purge protocol activated. You have 90 seconds to evacuate. They're going to kill you, Darren shouted. The creature didn't move, didn't panic. Instead, it stood fully its full height, shadowing the chamber. It looked down at him, calm. Then run, it said. No, Darren whispered. I'm not leaving you. The doors to the chamber blasted open. A wave of drones flew in, laser rifles ready. Darren shielded himself. The creature spread its arms, and in a flash, a circular pulse erupted from its body, not an attack, but a barrier. The drones crashed into it, falling like sparks against a storm. It turned to Darren. Go. They fear what I once was, but you may help me become what I was meant to be. What's that? Not a weapon, not a beast. Then what? Guardian. But before Darren could respond, the ship's AI spoke again. Containment breach confirmed. Power grid destabilizing. Ship core integrity 62%, 59%, 53%. The creature's presence's energy was now affecting the entire system. The ship couldn't handle its awakening. Darren pulled out a backup stabilizer unit from his pack. I can reroute power to the core, he said. But it might trap you here again. The beast looked at him with something like a smile, a bitter one. Then choose. Darren stood in silence, caught between mercy and madness. He had come down here with curiosity. He had stayed out of guilt, but now it was something else. He looked at the beast, not as a prisoner, not as a danger, but as someone who was once made to suffer. He tossed the stabilizer aside. No more cages, he said outside the chamber. Captain Jarek watched the data feed. Security footage showed the beast standing beside the human. No chains, no rage, just two figures, calm, united. He slammed his fist on the control table. It's bonding with him, Jarek growled. Cut off the air, cut off the power, kill them both. Deep in the cell, in the quiet before chaos. Darren looked up. If you have to run, run, but if you stay, I stay with you. The beast placed a hand on his shoulder. Then you are no longer just human, it said. You are chosen. It walks among UST corridors of the ship. Sarantha were never silent. But tonight, the silence was strange. Not peaceful, not empty. Waiting, somewhere deep within its walls. Something had awakened. Darren stood beside the creature now, no longer fully chained. His hands still trembled. Not from fear, but from the weight of what he had done. The air felt heavy, charged. The walls around them gave soft groans like they were holding back a storm. They're coming, the creature said. Its voice was low, steady like wind against mountains. We should hide, Darren said. No, I must be seen. On the bridge, Captain Jarek stood watching the monitors. Every camera feed from sublevel 13 was filled with static now. Interference. Shadows moving where no one should be. It's walking free, he whispered. The human is still with it. Another officer reported. ZHE. Rack single quotes S face twisted with anger. Then he's no longer human. He's infected by it. Corrupted. What if it's not attacking? One younger officer asked carefully. What if it's changed? Jarek turned sharply. You don't change a black hole. You don't teach fire to be kind. He pointed at the screen. Seal every door. Flush the corridors with gas, if you must. Nothing leaves sublevel 13 alive, in the lower decks. Sirens echoed, and red lights spun through the hallways. Durham, and the creature walked together. Slowly. Every step the creature took left faint marks, light impressions on the metal floor that glowed briefly before fading, like it wasn't fully of this world anymore. Daron tapped his wrist panel. They've sealed the exits. The creature looked at the walls, then placed one hand gently on a console. Sparks danced from its fingers. Lights above them flickered and changed from red to white. Doors unsealed. Systems obeyed. The ship had recognized the creature again, not as a prisoner, but as part of itself. "What are you really?" Daron asked. "I was born in stars," it said. "Built from fear, made to destroy, but also to protect. You said you were a guardian. I was. Until they made me forget." They walked through the crew quarters now, quiet and empty, until dash movement. 5 security drones flew around the corner, scanning. Targets located. The robotic voices barked. They raised weapons. "Don't," Daron shouted, but it was too late. The drones fired. Blue plasma burst toward them. In a blink, the creature stepped in front of Daron. Its hand raised. A shimmering shield of energy appeared, catching every blast in midair. The bolts froze in place, then shattered into sparks. The drones recalculated, aimed again. This time, the creature struck back. Not with fire, not with blades, with sound. A deep, vibrating hum pulsed out like a heartbeat from the creature's chest. It wasn't loud, but it hit everything around like a storm. The drones' sensors glitched, their limbs twitched. Then, one by one, they collapsed, silent, unmoving. "What was that?" Daron asked, stunned. "Truth," it said. "Their metal remembers fear." Elsewhere, Jarak watched in disbelief as drone signals vanished one after another. "How is it bypassing our defenses?" No one answered. Jodzi, Rak stared at the feed, showing it walking freely beside the human, peacefully, like they were equals. He slammed his fist down. "Then we send something that doesn't fear it." "The Omega unit," a voice asked quietly. "Yes," Jarek whispered. "Release the void armor." In the main corridor, Daron and the creature stepped into a large dome chamber, the ship's observatory deck. Massive windows stretched above them, showing the stars. Daron stopped. Ahead of them, a new figure dropped from a hatch in the ceiling. Tall, metallic, black armor that pulsed like a heartbeat. Red eyes burned from the helmet. Long weapons built into each arm. "This one is not like the others," the creature said. "What is it?" Darren asked. "An echo of me." The void armor stepped forward, slow and silent. Then it charged. It moved faster than anything Daron had ever seen, straight toward them, blades buzzing, lasers powering up. The creature raised its arm and the two collided in a shockwave that cracked the glass. Above, Darren was thrown backward. Sparks rained. Down. Metal bent and screamed. The two titans fought, energy against energy, light against darkness. Each strike shook the deck. The void armor screamed like a machine in pain. It slashed, burned, stabbed. The creature fought back, not with rage, but with control. It moved like a protector, not wanting to kill, only to stop. Then the armor pinned it down. Its blade rose. Darren shouted, "No!" And before the strike fell, he threw himself forward. He slammed the emergency override into the floor, sending a surge of power through the deck. The armor froze, systems disrupted, just long enough. The creature rose, lifted the void armor, and crushed it in a wave of energy that made the room fall silent. Pieces of dark metal fell like ashes. Daron fell to his knees, coughing. The creature limped toward him. "You shouldn't have risked yourself," it said. "You're worth the risk," Daron whispered. The creature looked up at the stars above them through the broken window. "Then the galaxy may still survive." Far across the ship, Sharak watched. The last feed died. His hands shook. "It's no longer a beast," he whispered. "It's something worse." He turned to his officers. "Begin the evacuation. We lost this ship." But in the dome room, Darren looked at the creature, standing tall in the starlight. He finally asked, "What's your name?" The creature closed its eyes, as if remembering something ancient, then spoke one word, Keller. The beast remember's name echoed in Darren's mind. Kale, or not a number, not a cage label, not a warning sign, a name. The beast had a name. Kale, or Darren. Stood slowly, the starlight behind the shattered dome casting long shadows across the deck. Keller's tall figure glowed faintly, scars, still fresh, armor cracked from the battle with the void armor. But his presence stronger than ever. Keller, Darren repeated, as if saying it made it more real. Kale, or single quotes, eyes turned toward him. For a moment, there was silence, deep, thoughtful silence. Then, Keller looked up at the stars. "I was born in a world with no sky," he said, voice low and filled with old weight. "A place carved by war and forged by fear. The stars were stories, not homes." Darren listened. Every word felt like a memory unchained. "I was made to stop enemies, to end wars before they began. But the leaders feared me, more than they feared their enemies." He paused. "So they turned me into a weapon, a thing, a monster. They took away my voice, my thoughts, even my name." Keller stepped toward a ruined console, placing his palm on the glass. The ship responded. Lights flickered, files unlocked, holoscreens projected glowing symbols in the air. "These files," Keller said, "are memories, stolen ones, hidden by those who feared what I was remembering." Darren walked closer. He watched the screen's images of alien generals injecting something into Keller's head. Blue liquid, wires, programming, forced obedience, pain. But then, something else. Kale, or standing between two worlds, both begging for protection, both pointing weapons at each other, and Keller choosing to walk away. "You tried to stop the war," Darren whispered. Gal, or nodded. "They called it betrayal." On the bridge, Captain Jarek stared at the map of the ship. Section by section, Keller was waking the systems. "He's taking the ship," Jarek muttered. "No, sir," an officer said, nervously tapping controls. "He's not controlling it. He's restoring it." "Restoring it to what?" The officer hesitated. The ship's original purpose wasn't war. It was a sanctuary ship, a protector-class ark. Jarek's fists clenched, and now the Guardian has returned. Below, in the observatory chamber, Keller turned away from the screens and looked at Darren. "You unchained me, but something greater still holds me down," he said. "What?" Darren asked. Kalo raised his hand slowly and touched his own chest right over the word protector, scratched into his armor. "Memory," he said. "The past. The faces of those I failed. The billions I couldn't save. Because I followed orders. Because I didn't remember who I was." Darren felt a cold sadness wrap around the room. "You couldn't save everyone," Darren said. "But you can still save someone. Maybe more. Maybe a world." Keller turned, standing tall once again. "Then I will." Suddenly, a deep hum rose from beneath the floor. Something ancient, pulsing. Kale, or turned to the console and waved his hand. The holograms changed now, showing a star system on the edge of collapse. "This was the last system I was sent to," he said. "The council ordered me to burn it. They said it was lost, full of rebels, but I disobeyed. I shielded the civilians, helped them escape." He paused. "They punished me for it." The ship shakes. Warning lights flicker. A voice from the overhead system speaks. "External fleet approaching. Unidentified ships. Weapons locked." Darren's blood went cold. "They're coming for you." Keller turned his head slowly. "They're coming to finish what they started." On the edge of the ship's perimeter, 3 massive warships appeared from hyperspace. They were old council ships, the same ones that once ordered Keller's imprisonment. On the bridge of the lead ship, A counselor whispered to his advisors. It's alive, he said. We buried the fire. Now it burns again. Orders. No survivors. Back aboard Cerintha, Keller stood before the command panel. He placed his hand on it, and the ship responded fully. Completely. Energy flowed through the walls. This ship was once my heart, he said. Now, it becomes my shield. He looked to Duran. You gave me this chance. Now, I will give you one. What do you mean? Duran asked. They will not stop, and this ship is not ready to fight. But there is one way to protect it. Keller walked to a glowing pod behind the control deck. It was large, smooth, lined with stasis tubes. This was the core of my creation, he said. They put me in this to make me a weapon. Now, I will return to it, but on my terms. You're going back into stasis. Not quite. I will link with the ship, guide it, protect it, become what I was always meant to be. But what happens to you? Keller smiled a small, tired smile. I will be everywhere and nowhere. He stepped into the pod. Lights surged. Systems lit up across the ship. Duran stepped forward, eyes wide. You don't have to do this alone. Keller looked at him, and this time, his voice was quiet. You already freed me, Darren. Now go. Lead this ship. Help others. Teach them what mercy looks like. But how will I know what to do? Keller placed a hand on the inner glass. Listen, I'll still be here. The pod closed. The ship trembled once. Then, everything became still. The red lights turned blue. The engines purred like a sleeping beast. And across the galaxy, the warships hesitated, because for the first time in centuries, the Guardian had remembered who he was.